What's up guys, my name is Brandon and today we're going to be running an in-depth speed test between the new Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus and Apple's iPhone 7 Plus of last year. This test is going to be a combination of real-life app usage, benchmarks, and boot tests. But before we dive into any kind of testing, let's take a look at what we're working with on each device. So the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus has a Snapdragon 835 chip with 4 GB of RAM, whereas the iPhone 7 Plus has Apple's A10 Fusion chip with 3 GB of RAM. So the S8 is a bit more powerful on paper, but of course, as we all know, specs don't really mean much these days, especially when we're comparing an iPhone which thrives on software optimization and not just fully on hardware. Alright, so both the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus and the iPhone 7 Plus are both on the latest public versions, Android 7 and iOS 10.3.1. Both devices are also freshly restored and have no apps running in the background. Alright, so before we get to the real fun, let's just start with a boring old simple boot down and boot up test. Power off both devices. Okay, so can't really do a proper boot down test just because you can't really tell, especially on the iPhone, when it's actually fully shut down. So we're just gonna go ahead and do a boot up test, speed test, and see which one boots up quicker. Alright, so 3, 2, 1. So it looked like the S8 got something on the screen first before the iPhone has the Apple logo there. And it looks like the S8 is actually starting to pull away here and may boot up quicker than the iPhone 7 Plus. So we have the Verizon logo there. Nope. It actually looks like the 7 Plus booted up quicker than the S8 Plus. So that's pretty interesting. I think it had something to do with the amount of boot screens that are actually on the S8 Plus and Android in general, as opposed to Apple where it's just the Apple logo. All right, so now what we're gonna do is run through a sequence of apps, both standard apps and third-party apps, and then finish off with some Geekbench and 3D render testing, along with a network test just for fun. All right, so let's go ahead and start this test up. All right, so starting off with the calendar, you can see the S8 got out to an early lead. Then going into the cameras, where the S8 had a little bit of trouble, it took a while to take that rear-facing picture there, but when I flipped around to the front, it was very quick in and out of maps and notes. You can see it's right there with the 7 Plus. They're pretty much neck and neck at this point going into the App Store. The S8's starting to take a lead with YouTube, and you can see I'm going to go ahead and send an email, share, and then email. Had a little trouble finding the buttons there on the iPhone. Going to go to Twitter and sign up. So the S8 has a pretty good lead right now over the iPhone 7 Plus, opening up Instagram. Then Spotify going into a playlist and playing a song inside of the Rap Caviar playlist. Then we're going to go into the game. So this is where things get really interesting because Apple and iOS have always been known for optimizing and just being better than Samsung and any kind of Android as far as games, just optimizing for games. So it's going to be interesting to see which one wins here. You can see that the Samsung Galaxy S8 got to 89% before the iPhone 7 Plus, and it looks like it's going to start up. You can see it started up before the 7 Plus, but we run into a hiccup there and it does take a while. There is a little bit of lag opening up the second game, so it seems like when the S8 is under duress, it can be a little bit laggy. So we're finishing up here. You can see the iPhone 7 Plus has completed the test at 1 minute, 15 seconds, and 21 milliseconds, followed by the S8 Plus at 1 minute, 19 seconds, and 5 milliseconds. So very close. You know, it came down to pretty much the games, the lag after closing out of the MLB game and then opening up the other game. And then also the camera was a little bit of a lag there on the S8's part. But aside from that, a really close battle between the S8 Plus and the 7 Plus. I also wanted to do a Safari test. So you can see here we're loading up apple.com on each, and it looked like the iPhone 7 Plus loaded up apple.com before the S8 Plus, but when we go to one of these menus here, you'll see right there that the S8 Plus actually loaded up quicker, and when we go to the SE, you can see that it's very close. Looks like the S8 may have had a little bit of an edge there. And then as far as ESPN goes, iPhone 7 Plus loaded up first. You can see the banner ad right there, loaded up on the iPhone 7 Plus first. Then when we click on another menu, you can see the 7 Plus again beats out the S8 Plus there in browsing. And then going to another section, you can see it's pretty close, it's pretty neck and neck. And then we go to Samsung.com, and of course the Samsung Galaxy S8 loads up Samsung.com before the iPhone 7 Plus. However, the iPhone 7 Plus got to the Shop Now page quicker than the S8 Plus, as well as when you click that Get Started button right there. Then when we go to search, it's really interesting to see that the iPhone 7 Plus got that search bar up a lot quicker than the S8 Plus. The S8 Plus seemed to have some sort of lag right there when pressing the search bar. All right, so now we're gonna reopen every single application from the test individually to see which one is faster when it comes to optimizing and suspending applications and just overall just app management and background management. So we're gonna test the calendar first. It looked like the iPhone won there. Let's go ahead and try the camera. Looked like the Galaxy actually won that one. Let's try the Maps. And the iPhone won there. Let's try Notes. Looks like the Galaxy won that one, not sure. Let's try the App Store for each one, the Play Store and the App Store. Looked like the animations were just quicker on the iPhone there. We're gonna try YouTube now. Looked like the iPhone once again won it. Looked like the animations are what won it for the iPhone there. Go to Twitter. And again, it looks like the iPhone won there. And actually, it looks like the Galaxy went back to this page and didn't stay on the sign up page, which is pretty interesting. Instagram. iPhone once again. Spotify. Once again, it looked like the iPhone won there. The MLB game right here. Looks like the iPhone actually, it looks like the Samsung's actually starting over again, whereas the iPhone stayed where we left off. So that's pretty interesting as well, but not really unexpected because Apple is known, you know, for optimizing these background applications and suspending them and keeping them running in the background. So let's try the car drifting game now. And once again, it's going to be the same case. Looks like the iPhone picks up where we left off, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S8 restarts from the very beginning. So yeah, it definitely looks like the iPhone hands down wins when it comes to optimizing and suspending applications and just opening up applications that you already had open before. So now let's run a Geekbench on both. So let's go ahead and open up Geekbench at the same time. Looks like the iPhone opened up first. So we're just going to run the CPU benchmark and at the same time, let's go. And so I will be back once this finishes. Oh, I didn't run this one actually. So S8 got a head start there, so we'll be back when it's close to finishing to see which one finishes first. Alright, so it looks like the iPhone finishes first by a good margin despite being started after the S8's benchmark started. So that is impressive for the iPhone 7 Plus. So you can see here on the iPhone 7 Plus, while we're still waiting on the S8 Plus to finish up, we have a 3527 single core score and a 5964 multi-core score. Those are some pretty impressive numbers. So we're gonna wait for the S8 Plus, which is really lagging behind. I'm surprised it's this far behind the 7 Plus, but we're gonna wait for that to finish up and I'll be back to look at the numbers. And there we go. We are finally finishing up on the S8 Plus. As you can see there, a whole almost 3 minutes later, we finished up on the S8 Plus. So you can see the score is much lower in the single core 1841, but it's actually higher in the multi-core score there with 6229. So those are the Geekbench results. Let's go back and do a 3D render test now. So we're gonna do 3D Mark, the slingshot test. So we both have the slingshot extreme test right here on both devices, as you can see right there. So we're just gonna click run at the same time, try to get it at the same time this time. There we go. So it looked like we did it at the same time. Looked like the iPhone 7 Plus did get started a little bit quicker. Looks a little bit choppy on the S8 Plus, I must say. It looks a little bit smoother on the 7 Plus here. Yeah, it definitely looks a lot smoother. I'm sure you can see that through the video even. Looks a lot smoother on the 7 Plus. The S8 is a little bit choppy. So now it's looking like the S8 Plus is actually running smoother than the 7 Plus, so this is interesting. I'm curious to see what the actual scores are. Yeah, the S8 Plus is definitely handling this one a lot better than the 7 Plus. Oh man, look at that. It really struggled there at the end. Let's see if the S8 Plus struggles. It did not struggle at the end. The 7 Plus actually went down to like 1 frame per second. Whereas the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus did not lag that hard at the end there. And again, it's looking like the 7 Plus is lagging right here, whereas the S8 Plus is handling it well. So there we go. We have a 3468 score on the Slingshot Extreme for the S8 Plus, and it actually finished before the 7 Plus, which was ahead at the beginning and through the first test. So that's definitely very interesting. So you can see there we have a 3468 score. So we're going to wait for the 7 Plus, which we're still waiting on to finish up. There we go. We got a 2271. So definitely a big win there for the S8 Plus. You can see the graphs there as well. You can see where it really drops off on the 7 Plus, whereas it doesn't drop off as heavy on the S8 Plus. So that was definitely interesting there and a nice win for the S8 Plus. So now let's just run a speed test just for fun. We're going to be using Wi-Fi on both. We're going to start with the 7 Plus. Alright, so we got a 13 ping, 89.63 download, and 11.90 upload, which is pretty standard for my Wi-Fi here. I don't expect there to be much of a difference here on both devices, but I just want to do it just because. So we do actually have higher ping on the S8 Plus, which is a little interesting. Looks like the download's going to be just slightly lower than that of the 7 Plus, and the upload It's looking like it's going to be about the same. It's going back and forth between 11 and 12 there. It's actually looking like it's going to be higher on the S8 Plus here, and it is. So 12.36 upload on the S8 Plus, which is higher than the 7 Plus, but the download is just slightly lower on the S8 Plus, as well as the ping is a little bit higher, which is worse on the S8 Plus. So there you have it. That is a real life speed comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus and the iPhone 7 Plus. So what'd you think of the test? Were you surprised by the results? Did you know the results were going to be like this? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Also, make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for a lot more S8 coverage and comparisons to the iPhone 7 and then eventually the iPhone 8. So thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon.